Hi everyone, today we're starting chapter 3 and we'll start off with 3.1, transformations of quadratic equations. We want to first talk about a few vocabulary words and things that we're going to be using today. First, a quadratic function is written as f of x is equal to x squared. That's a quadratic. A parabola is the U-shaped graph of a quadratic. And finally, the vertex of a parabola is the lowest or highest point on a parabola. Let's go ahead and take a look at a specific form of a quadratic function, and that is the vertex form. It's called the vertex form because you can very easily pick out the vertex from this form of the equation. The vertex for this equation is simply at h, k. So our equation is that f of x is equal to a times the quantity of x minus h squared plus k. And you may recall from chapter 1 when we talked about transformations previously, when you see a number out in front, that could indicate a couple of things. If it has a negative sign, then that negative is equal to a reflection in the x-axis. If you see a number, then that is either a stretch or a shrink. So a number here equals a stretch or a shrink. And a stretch would be if the a value is greater than 1. A shrink would be if a is less than 1. Moving on to the inside of the parentheses, the h value could indicate either a left or a right translation. Left if you see a positive number, and right if you see a negative number. Remember, that horizontal is inside and opposite. And then finally, k, if there's a number tacked onto the back side, that's a transformation up or down. Up if you see positive, and down if you see a negative. Let's look at some examples of quadratics that are written in vertex form and practice picking out the vertex from the quadratic equation. The one thing you want to remember is that there is a negative built into the equation itself. So that means that whatever the sign is on our equation on the inside of the parentheses is actually going to be the opposite of h. So for example, in number 1, we have y is equal to the quantity of x minus 2 squared. That's a negative 2, but our h value is actually a positive 2. Our k value in this case, well, there isn't any number tacked onto the end, so k is just 0. Let's look at number 2. I see a positive 3. Remembering that there's a negative built into the equation, that means that my h is actually negative 3, and my k is a negative 1. Why don't you pause the video and try to do number 3 and 4, and then come back to check and see if you got it right. Okay, looking at number 3, we have a positive again, so a positive 2 in the equation is a negative 2 for h. We have a positive 4 for k, so our vertex is at negative 2, 4. And finally, one more negative, meaning that we have a negative 3 because of the positive there in the equation, and a positive 1.